So we're going to read from two things today. We have our normal Srimad Bhagavatam verse, and we also are going to read a couple pages from Ekadasi Mahatmya about Nirjala Ekadasi, which is of course today. So I think we're going to read about Ekadasi after, and we'll just do the verse first. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Ashapayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatam Ashloke Bhakti Bhakti Naishiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 15, Text 14. The chapter is entitled, The Pandavas Retire Timely. Yad Pandava Kurupalabdim Anantavaram
Yad Pandava Kurupalabdim Anantavaram
Ekoratena Tatareha Sattvam
Ekoratena Tatareha Sattvam
Pratyahritam Bahudanam Chamaya Paresham
Pratyahritam Bahudanam Chamaya Paresham
Tejasparam Manimayam Chahritam Shirobhya
Tejasparam Manimayam Chahritam Shirobhya
Yad Pandava Kurubalabdhim Anantaparam
Yad Pandava Kurubalabdhim Anantaparam
Ekoratena Satareham Atirya Sattvam Ekoratena Tatareham Atirya Sattvam
Ekoratena Tatareham Atirya Sattvam
Pratyahritam Bahudanam Chamaya Paresham
Pratyahritam Bahudanam Chamaya Paresham
Tejasparam Manimayam Chahritam Shirobhya
Tejaspadam Manimayam Chahritam Shirobhya
Yad Pandava Kurubalabdhim Anantaparam
Yad Pandava Kurubalabdhim Anantaparam
Ekoratena Tatareham Atirya Sattvam
Ekoratena Tatareham Atirya Sattvam
Pratyahritam Bahudanam Chamaya Paresham
Pratyahritam Bahudanam Chamaya Paresham
Tejasparam Manimayam Chahritam Shirobhya
Tejaspadam Manimayam Chahritam Shirobhya Yad Pandava Kurubal Adhim Anantaparam
Yad Pandava Kurubalabdhim Anantaparam
Ekoratena Tatare Ahamatira Sattvam
Ekoratena Tatareham Atirya Sattvam
Pratyahritam Bahudanam Chamaya Paresham
Pratyahritam Bahudanam Chamaya Paresham
Tejaspadam Manimayam Charitam Shirobhya
Tejasparam Manimayam Charitam Shirobhya
Yad Bandhava Kurubaladhimanantaparam
Yad Bandhava Kurubaladhimanantaparam
Ekoratena Tatareham Atirya Sattvam
Ekoratena Tatareham Atirya Sattvam
Pratyahritam Bahudanam Chamaya Paresham
Pratyahritam Bahudanam Chamaya Paresham
Tejaspadam Manimayam Charitam Shirobhya
Tejaspadam Manimayam Charitam Shirobhya. Vaishnavas.
Yad Pandava Kurubalabdhim Anantaparam
Yad Pandava Kurubalabdhim
chamaya paresham.
Pratyaritam bahudanam chamaya paresham.
Tejasparam manimayam charitam shirobhya.
Tejaspadam manimayam charitam shirobhya.
Yadvandava kurubhavakrimanantaparam.
Yadvandava kurubhavakrimanantaparam.
Eko ratena tatareha matirya sattvam.
Ego ratena tatareha matirya sattvam.
Pratyavritam bahudanam chamaya paresham.
Pratyaritam bahudanam chamaya paresham.
Tejasvaram manimayam charitam shirobhya.
Tejaspadam manimayam charitam shirobhya.
Yadvandava kurubalabdim anantaparam.
Yadvandava kurubalabdim anantaparam.
Eko rathena tatareha matirya sattvam.
Eko ratena tatareha matirya sattvam.
Pratyaritam bahudhanam chamaya paresham.
Pratyaritam bahudanam chamaya paresham.
Tejaspadam manimayam charitam shirobhya.
Tejaspadam manimayam charitam shirobhya.
Yadvandava kurubalabhidam anantaparam.
Yadvandava kurupalabdim anantaparam.
Eko ratena tatareha matirya sattvam.
Eko ratena tatareha matirya sattvam.
Pratyavritam bahudanam chamaya paresham.
Pratyaritam bahudanam chamaya paresham.
Tejaspadam manimayam charitam shirobhya.
Tejaspadam manimayam charitam shirobhya.
Yadvandava.
Yadvandava.
By whose friendship only.
By his friendship only.
Kurubala abhyam.
Kurubalabdim.
The ocean of the military strength of the Kurus.
The ocean of the military strength of the Kurus.
Anantaparam.
Anantaparam.
Which was insurmountable.
Which was insurmountable.
Ekaha. Alone.
Alone.
Ratena. Being seated on the chariot.
Being seated on the chariot.
Tatare. Was able to cross over.
Was able to cross over.
Aham. Myself. Atirya. Invincible. Sattvam. Existence. Pratyahritam. Drew back. Bahu. Very. Oh, I'm sorry. Very large quantity. Dhanam. Wealth. Cha. Also. Maya. By my. Paresham. Of the enemy. Tejaspadam. Source of brilliance. Manimayam. Bedecked with jewels. Cha. Also. Pritam. Taken by force. Shirobhya. From their heads. Translation. The military strength of the Kauravas was like an ocean in which there dwelled many invincible existences, and thus it was insurmountable. But because of his friendship, I, seated on the chariot, was able to cross over it, and only by his grace was I able to regain the cows, and also collect by force many helmets of the kings, who will be decked with jewels that were sources of all brilliance. Purport by Talavana. On the Kaurava side, there were many stalwart commanders like Bhishma, Drona, Kripa, and Karna, and the military strength was insurmountable as a great ocean. And yet, it was due to Lord Krishna's grace that Arjuna alone, sitting on the chariot, can manage to vanquish them one after another without difficulty. There were many changes of commanders on the other side, but on the Pandava side, Arjuna alone, on the chariot driven by Lord Krishna, can manage the whole responsibility of the great war. Similarly, while the Pandavas were living at the palace of Virat, incognito, the Kauravas picked a quarrel with King Virat and decided to take away his large number of cows. While they were taking away the cows, Arjuna fought with them incognito and was able to regain the cows along with some booty taken by force, the jewels set on the turbans of the royal order. Arjuna remembered that all of this was possible by the grace of the Lord. Read the translation one more time. The military strength of the Kauravas was like an ocean in which there dwelled many invincible existences, and thus it was insurmountable. But because of his friendship, I, seated on the chariot, was able to cross over it, and only by his grace was I able to regain the cows, and also collect by force many helmets of the kings, which were bedecked with jewels that were sources of all brilliance. Om Gyanatarandasya Gyanandina Shalakaya Chakshudam Vedam Yena Tasmai Shri Vedana Shichitam Manobustam Stapitam Yen Bhutale Swayam Rupaya Mayam Tadati Swapadantikam Panchapapatrubhyascha Vasindhu Yekcha Pratana Paramebhyo Vaishnaveyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, this is obviously a very heart-wrenching time in the Bhagavatam, right, where right at the end of the last chapter, Yudhishthira Maharaj has just made the unfortunate inference that Lord Shri Krishna must have left this planet and gone on to be passed on to elsewhere. And then Arjuna was unable to speak, but now he's composed himself to the extent that he can start basically, well, he's just looking through his life and he's seeing how everything was the mercy of the Lord. How everything was by Lord Krishna's grace. And he's naming off the things one after another that now he can see in retrospect were only by Krishna's mercy. He names off the Khandava forest, the battle with Jarasandha. Now he's talking about the battle of Kurukshetra. All of these great exploits that we always read about in the Mahabharata and that are become very dear to us, very heroic pastimes. The devotee himself is thinking now in retrospect that he had nothing to do with it. It was all the mercy of Krishna. We see this is a characteristic in every great Vaishnava. Prabhupada would do the same thing. Prabhupada would say, if I have any credit in this matter, it's simply that I follow the order of my spiritual master. Right? Well, how much more humble can you get? It's, he's spread the movement all over the world, he's made devotees, he's big international organization, and he never saw it as his own doing. Now, I think about that sometimes. I wonder why that is. Because it is kind of their own doing, in a way. And it's, why are they always so eager to kind of take the credit off themselves? Sometimes when you talk to someone, you could say of integrity, then one quality that we look for is that they're a straight shooter. If they were responsible for something, they'll say it. If they weren't responsible for something, they'll say it as well. If something was because of them, then they'll admit it. Yeah, I did that. And if something was not, then they're just as straightforward. That I had nothing to do with that, And this is the quality that we look for in people that we find dependable and people that we trust. Is that, but the Vaishnavas always, they have this tendency of just kind of running away from their own good deeds. You know, this is something that you see in the songs of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in the songs of Narottam Das Thakur, especially, right? In the writings of Srila Prabhupada now, in the Lamentations of Arjuna. This is something that they just, they don't want anything to do with it. Any of the personal honor, any of the personal gain. And why? Why is that? I mean, this is just something that I think about sometimes. And I think the reason why is because I think it's a little bit more than just that kind of, oh Prabhu, all by your mercy kind of thing. I think it's more like they have that close relationship with Krishna that they just can't imagine any aspect of their life disconnected from Krishna. They see that everything that they do is that the inspiration for it, that what gives them the drive, what gives them the energy to carry on, comes directly from Krishna. Not in some philosophical way like we might think about it. You know, I don't think these are all, well, and I don't like saying I think or I don't think in Bhagavatam class, but bear with me for a second.
Okay.
It seems that it's really about that Krishna is their life and soul. So if Krishna's, you know, so it's not that they're just playing the humble trope kind of thing. It's like if you or someone were to consult you and say like, oh, you did so many wonderful things, and you're like, yeah, thank you. And then it's like, do you think you could have done those without oxygen? And no, of course not. Immediately, then you would just, no. Everyone knows, you might not think about it all the time. It's not like you're doing your work and you're, oh, thank God I'm breathing, right? But without oxygen, you'd be in trouble. You'd be in big trouble. So that is the extent of a great devotee's relationship with Krishna. Is that it's intrinsic and it's not going away. We hear one of the most famous verses in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Jiva Svarupa Hoy Krishnara Nitya Das. Krishnara Tatashta Shakti Veda Viprakash. So the eternal position of the living entity is as the servant of Krishna. Right? Now for us that sounds interesting. That sounds a little bit strange because if the eternal, you know, if we understand, if we just kind of break down every word of that sentence, then it's like, okay, so how come we're not pure servants of Krishna right now? Because eternality is eternal, and if we're eternally servants of Krishna, then why aren't we servants of Krishna right now? You know, we're trying to lord it over material nature, we're trying to become one with the Lord, you know, we're trying to do so many kind of abhorrible things. You know, so kind of what's the logic here? And then so Bhaktivinoda Thakur actually explains that. He says in Jaya Dharma, he says that it's like water. What is the intrinsic nature of water? Anyone? This is not total.
It's wet.
It's wet. It's liquid. It's wet. Let's go with wet. I think it's wet. Right? Now, he points out that in places like Antarctica or the North Pole, now there might be water that's been frozen for like literally time immemorial. Like no one remembers the last time it wasn't freezing in Antarctica. And that water's been there frozen for a long time. But still, no intelligent person will look at that water and go, I see. For millions of years it's been dry and solid. Clearly the nature of water has changed. Right? No intelligent person does that. Intelligent person goes and he looks and he says, due to this unnatural and extreme position the water's been put in, it has lost some of its intrinsic nature. Or rather, part of what we consider intrinsic to water is dormant in it. You can't drink ice, for example, right? And one of the first things you think about doing with water is drinking it. You can't take a bath with it either. Even if you rub the snow on yourself, you're waiting for it to melt, turn into normal water before, you know, otherwise you just cut yourself. So that's our position with Krishna, is we are completely dependent on Him, and we have an eternal relationship with Him. Now we forget that. And fair enough, that's why we're here. We're here because we wanted to forget that. So don't beat yourself up about it. We forget that. But the pure devotees do not. The pure devotees always remember their closeness with Krishna. And they always, that is the joy of their life, right? We remember probably I think one of the greatest sequence of, or just like, I think it's only like a paragraph, probably one of the greatest paragraphs ever written, is I think it's in, I'm not sure if it's the preface or the introduction to Nectar Devotion, but Prabhupada goes on, he kind of finishes up what he's saying with, he's saying how everyone's trying to love, but everyone's missing the main focus, and he says that Krishna consciousness is the one switch that will light up everything everywhere, right? And it's such an encouraging view of Krishna consciousness. You know, it's not like sometimes you read stuff and you go, oh boy, right? It seems tough. All your, fame, puja lava pratishtha, all your, fame and everything. We have to give up material affection for family and friends and close relatives. All of these things are to be it seems really rough. But if we remember that, actually, like Arjuna, like all of these devotees, the only reason that we can go on, the only thing that makes us alive, the only thing that makes any of us worth living is our connection to Krishna. It's not this body. It's not all the exploits we've done in this body. Every single one of us here, on an evening with our friends, we'll talk about stuff we did, and it's great, and it's like, I'm sure we all have wonderful memories. But all of those things are only useful in as much as they're connected to Krishna. And I don't even like saying that. Like, part of me when I say that, it doesn't feel nice, because it doesn't seem fair. It doesn't seem fair that we're here in the world and we're just trying to survive. Even karmis, it's like we like to, every once in a while, we like to really give a good rip on karmis. They have filthy, nasty karmis. They don't know what they're doing. They're just mudas. They go through life without even thinking. They're so sinful. They eat cows. We just really, we can give it to them. But you talk to most anyone, and they're just trying to get by. Really, it's like they're not like waking up like, how can I spread darkness throughout this realm? Like they're waking up and thinking like, oh boy, got the mortgage on the house, my kids are having trouble in school, or if they're a kid, it's like, oh geez, I gotta go to this slaughterhouse again, and I gotta sit here and pretend to learn something and just kind of pad along so I can maybe get a job one day. Or, it's like they're really just trying to survive. Everyone in the material world is so it seems unfair then when you take that and we just criticize it to all hell. We take it and we go, what's the point? Because we do it to ourselves as well. What's the point of your life unless you're, how many verses in Bhagavatam? Unless you're establishing pure, loving, devotional service to Krishna, everything is just useless labor. Well, right? Even if you're perfectly doing your dharma, forget just kind of surviving. You're doing your dharma. So you had the opportunity and the association that you can assess yourself. You can really look at yourself and you can go, yeah, this is my nature. This is how I should be connected in the Varnashram scheme. This is how I can give back to the world and to the universe and at the same time satisfy myself. Right? This is way above and beyond what most people are concerned with. Most people working at an oil rig or, in Burger King, they're not like, yeah, I think this is really what I was meant to do with my life. It's like, I feel satisfied, I give back to society, I'm elevating the universe, right? No one is thinking like that when they're working the majority of their jobs. But even the people who have found themselves in that wonderful situation where they're literally benefiting everyone, practically by definition, if you're doing your dharma, you're benefiting yourself, you're benefiting your society, you're benefiting the world, and you're benefiting the universe. And you're benefiting Vishnu. Sometimes Varnashram is called Vishnu Yagya, right? Which means it's all just one big sacrifice for Vishnu. Maybe inadvertent, but still, because it's because you're playing your part in the universal form. You're a good cog in the machine. So, even if you're doing that, it's Bhagavatam will tell you that's totally useless. You're totally useless if you're not doing devotional service, right? That's so rough. Like, we hear it and we nod. But if you think about it for a while, which I'm sure all of you have, you've been around for long enough to think about these things, it's not pleasant to think that even if I'm doing so well, it's all useless unless it's all contingent on this one thing. And if I'm not doing that one thing, it's totally useless, right? And then you look at karmis, like I said, or sometimes, or a lot of times us, we're not even worried about dharma. We're just trying to survive. We're just trying to make it to the next day, with enough happiness in our lives not to justify suicide. And it's like, that's the way a lot of people are. And then we tell them that this is all, and then we have all this. So anyway, the point that I was getting at is that sometimes it's not palatable to think about this stuff. But it's still true. And that's really important. It's sad. And I think we can all get angry about it sometimes. And I think that's fair. But it's still true. And it's not just true because Bhagavatam says it, right? Prabhupada didn't want us to be dogmatic. One time Prabhupada was talking to some of his disciples. He would do that sort of back and forth thing. And he was saying how we're not this body, how we should serve Krishna, and he's just totally dismantling their arguments. They're, obviously they're not that professional, but they're doing their best. And they're coming at him. And then finally one of them goes, look, whatever, okay, you're just talking from some old Indian book that some old Indian guy wrote a long time ago. Okay, so why should we trust what you're saying? Prabhupada says, what are you talking about? I haven't quoted the Bhagavad Gita once. What I'm saying is common sense. Right? And then it's true. You don't notice it, but you reread the conversation, and it's true. He hasn't. It's not like he's like, he's not doing that. He's showing how it makes sense. It's true. Right? So going back to, we say that nothing unless it's connected to Krishna is of any use at all. That sounds really rough, but it's true. And it's as hard as that is to swallow. It's true. And I'll give you an example of how it's true. I used to teach little kids in the school. And then I was trying to give them an example of how something that's temporary isn't actually of value. Right? And I said, now imagine you're walking down the street and then, all these big signs start flashing, winner, winner. And someone hands you a coupon and they go, there you go, buddy. You have unlimited ice cream for the rest of your life. You snap your fingers, chaperone comes by, whatever flavor you want, serves you as much as you want, and you're good. And you go, for the rest of my life? Yeah, that's wonderful. But here's one thing, right, imagine it's contingent, there's one stipulation. Stipulation, great word. There's one stipulation. At some point, all this is going to be rescinded, and some guy's just going to come and beat you to death. Right? How much are you going to be able to enjoy that ice cream? Maybe the first day you're going to be terrified. Then after a week you might start forgetting, and then every once in a while you're going to see some other kid get all his ice cream taken away and get beaten to death.
Oh my God.
And then you're going to go, oh jeez. Right? And you kind of pistachio. And then, but you're just kind of, but there's no enjoyment there. Right? And because it's temporary and because it ends in suffering. Right? So our lives are the same way. Like it or not. This is why we can trust Bhagavatam. Because it tells you that life is suffering and life is useless unless you connect your spirit soul to Krishna, basically. Or yourself to Krishna, rather. I don't think you have a spirit soul. You are a spirit soul. So it's true. Because just like that poor little kid with the ice cream, I didn't say beat to death when I was talking to the kids, I just said he beats you up by 11, so don't worry, no one's scarred. So when you're, you know, our life is the same way. Even if we're getting what we want, even if everything's going perfect, right? Even if you're Dharma Swanasudam, even if you're doing your Dharma and everything's just working out for you, you're helping people out, they're helping you out, you're making the world a better place, you have your enjoyment, you have your Dharma Artha Kama Moksha happening, right? It's all going on. At the end of the day, it will all be unceremoniously torn away from you. Torn away, ripped away. Without you being able to, and like in increments first, because first your loved ones are going to go away, your health is going to go away, right? And then, boom, finally in one sweep, everything's going to go away. And that's just reality. That is the unforgivable reality of this world, right? You look around and it's just that happens to everyone, to everything in history. Always has, always will. Right? But, as Maharaj Yudhisthira says, the most amazing thing in the material world, when he's asked by Yamaraj, actually, he says, what's the most amazing? He says, that every man looks around and sees everything and everyone else dying, but he thinks, I will never die. Right? That's the most amazing thing. So, yeah, so when we're hearing what Arjuna is saying, when he's talking about everything in his life, and he's saying it was only useful and it was only possible because of Krishna, right? Aside from just the beauty and the heartbreak of the pastime, that can speak to us in a really personal way. Because the reality is that if you look through your life, you're going to see that the little bit of enjoyment that you got, you had very little to do with, right? It came from... Even if even if we're not pure enough to see that it came directly from Krishna, it came from the world. It wasn't like you are in no way the master of your happiness and enjoyment. How many times have you planned to have the perfect day? Right? Maybe you've been planning it for weeks. Everything's going to be perfect. This is going to happen like that. We're going to have my favorite food. We're going to listen to my favorite music. My favorite people are going to come over. And it's a disaster. Right? It's just something goes wrong. It starts raining. Something's spoiled. The people who come over decide to start bickering about something you don't want to talk about. And it's just the whole day is ruined. You are in no way a master of your happiness or distress. And then some days it's kind of like you find yourself, you have to work all day in the sun. It's a rough day. You didn't expect to have to do all that. And you finish the day and you're like, oh, okay. It's okay. You know, it's like, you're happy. You don't have any explanation as to why, but you're okay. Right? So we're not the master of that. How happy we're going to be, how sad we're going to be. So when you look back through your life and you're thinking about all your happy times and all your victorious times, they had so little to do with you. So little. A little bit, but really a minuscule amount. You know, like, even if we aren't advanced enough to keep Krishna in the equation, even if we can't see, okay, that came from Krishna, you can at least, everyone can admit it didn't come from you. Right? And then similarly, everything that we've achieved, right? You talk to, I read this businessman that says, how do you get rich? You keep trying and you get lucky, right? That's one recommendation. I was talking to this devotee who used to be a bouncer. He'd been in tons of fights. He told me, a fight is 30% skill and 70% not giving up. Right? And then he said, and then a lot of it is contingent about just really luck. Because if you land that first good hit, you win the fight. If he lands that first good hit, he wins the fight. And it's very, so it's like, so even people who are very expert at achieving what they achieve, they have to admit, it happened because it happened. I tried and everything, but so our achievements, our happiness, our distress, they have so little to do with us. Right? And this is what Arjuna is bringing out. But Arjuna, unlike us, he can see who they actually had to do with. He can directly, due to his friendship with Krishna, he can directly see that, I was happy, I was successful because of Krishna. And then he goes on to show that when Krishna is not connected, and even if he takes a physical form in his life, this comes later in the chapter, when Krishna is not connected, he can't do the most basic elements of his duty, of just protecting an unprotected woman. He can't do that. He's the most powerful Kshatriya on the planet. And when he's bereft of Krishna's mercy, he can't do that. Right? So it's, like I said, it's a nice story, but when we apply it to us, we see how kind of sad it is, but also how true it is. How true it's just sometimes that we have so little control. And we have so little capacity to actually do what we want, to control and enjoy. And the only thing that makes it worth it is if we connect ourselves, our actual selves. Only thing that justifies really this life is if we're making some amount of eternal progress. Right? Like Krishna says, Neha Vikramanasosti Pratavana Vidite Swapamapyasya Dharmasya Trayate Mahatobaya. That even a little advancement on this path can save one from the most dangerous type of fear. Right? And either it says that in the verse, or Prabhupada says in the purport, he brings out that point of how it just, the 1% thing. If you make 1% advancement in Krishna consciousness, then that's there. Next life you're going to start at 2%. You're not going to start at 0. The material world, unless it's 99%, unless you make it 100% and it works, it was a failure. Right? And that's even in this lifetime. Then what to speak about, even if you made 100 super successful things, they're all gone the moment you die. Nothing to do with you. Right? So it's kind of morbid, but it's true. But Arjuna is reminding us where that's our silver lining. Because we can remember that no, there is actual happiness. There is actual eternal relationships. Right? Not only with the Lord, but with each other. This isn't a kind of, sometimes that's the way like neophytes think. It's just me and God, right? And everyone else can get out of here. No, if, Prabhupada makes that point, he said there's going to be an ISKCON in the spiritual world, right? So that means that we're going to have that eternal loving relationship with each other. We're going to have what we always wanted, family, friends that aren't going to go away, that aren't going to let you down. That you're going to have a great time with forever. Right? And it's all going to be based on that relationship with Krishna, who's this great guy who loves you more than you could ever love him. But until then, we have the reality of this world to deal with. And we should keep that kind of as our guiding light. Yeah. Okay, any questions or comments on that? And then we're going to read about Nirjala Ekadasi.
I'd just like to thank you. When you come to give the class, I get to vicariously live your youthful energy for a few moments. It's very refreshing to be around that youthful energy. But I think the first point you were making about, the Prabhupada not taking credit, I think that's real. That part,
yeah.
What I have trouble with is when I read Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Narottam Das Thakur saying that they're the wretched, most sinful, and they don't ever show any signs of that. That part, I know they're not lying about it, and but that part, there's a disconnect for me because they seem to be eternally liberated souls who are, but actually the definition, as I'm saying it, I'm realizing, the definition of an Uttama Adhikari is he feels everybody is advanced and he's the only one who isn't. So that may be the only thing, but that's that one. I can understand where there's a disconnect.
Right. No, I mean. Yeah, I have absolutely no answer because that confuses me as well, to be totally honest. Bhagavad Gita is the book I really get. Like they say that's for kind of beginner level devotees. Like Bhagavad Gita is really still on the level that I can connect with it because it's sort of, you never get into that really kind of dramatic. It's sort of like, hey, your spirit soul. Okay? You're like Krishna's whole point, he's never saying how small, it's everything that Krishna is saying is so empowering. Right? He's saying you're not gonna die, you're eternal. And he puts himself on the same platform as Arjuna and everyone else so many times. Right? So many births you and I have taken, but I can remember them, you can't. And he says, never is there a time when I do not exist. nor you nor all these kings, and never in the future shall any of us cease to be. So he really kind of puts himself on that same, he's really, he's kind of, it's a really sort of empowering book, where it's like, look, you're a living entity, you're like me, right? You're also eternal, you're also powerful, you're also undividable. Now get up and fight. Come on, like let's get with the program. So it's like, that's kind of a level I can more resonate with, but like I totally know what you mean. Right? That can confuse me sometimes. So sorry I couldn't help on that.
Yeah.
It must have to do with that they're so aware of their eternal loving relationship with the Lord. Because those devotees, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was Labanga Manjari, and Narottam Das Thakur also, like, so intimate servants that that's just like how you were saying, water is wet, sugar is sweet. Their love of the Lord is so much who they are that somehow that's the position that they take. But I don't know.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, of course. It's just that depth of us that we can't maybe understand it. Yes?
I was also thinking when you spoke about how, most people in this world, as you rightly said, they're just trying their best. They're just trying to survive. They're just trying to make it through the day. They're just trying to beat back whatever it is that's troubling them. And until and unless they receive the gift of Krishna consciousness, that's how it's going to be. So how fortunate we are. How fortunate we are that we have been lifted above and given that Bhakti Lata Beej and given a chance to finally get out of this entanglement of repeated birth and death. And so not only is it incumbent on us, on me, I'm really speaking to myself here, to really become sincere in Krishna consciousness, but also to help others who are struggling because they are completely in ignorance. I mean, the need is overwhelming. You just step outside and you can see how people are suffering. And it's just lack of Krishna consciousness. The moment you connect, your life is wonderful. Krishna takes care of you. There's no need of all anxiety and tension and worrying and battling and struggling and fighting and arguing and this and that. All that just falls by the wayside when we really connect with Krishna. There's no need for any worry after that point. And people need that so badly. So I really feel happy that young people like you, yesterday I was speaking to Jesse Prabhu also, you all are our future. You're going to take this mission and really go out there and help other people because there's an overwhelming need for this. It's tremendous. So go for it.
Why go out there and help other people? We need lots of help over here.
Yeah, it's true. Both need to be helping.
You all need help. You all need help.
Yes.
About the pure devotees and saying I'm the most sinful and all that, because they know that in the material world there's always compromises. Just to live, you have to eat plants, and you know they're spirit souls. You have to step on ants because you can't see them. They know more than we know. It's more true for us, but they're feeling it. We don't feel it.
Right.
So,
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just that basic awareness, I guess, as well. Yeah, I think.
And they're giving the example to us because we don't feel it, so we need to learn by it.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to read about Nirjala Ekadasi in the end. So this is chapter 14 of Ekadasi Mahatmya, called Nirjala Ekadasi. The description of Nirjala Ekadasi, which occurs during the month of May or June, is found in the Brahma-Vaivarta Purana and the conversations between Vyasadeva and Bhimasena. Once Bhimasena, the younger brother of Yudhisthira, inquired from the great sage Srila Vyasadeva, O most learned and worshipful grandfather, please hear my request. My elder brother Yudhisthira, mother of Kunti Devi, brothers Arjuna, Nakula, and Sahadeva, and Draupadi do not eat anything on the day of Ekadasi. They, especially Yudhisthira, always tell me that I should also fast on Ekadasi. But I always tell them that though I know that to fast on Ekadasi is an injunction of the scriptures, I cannot bear my hunger, and therefore I am unable to fast. I can give in charity as per my capacity, I can worship Lord Keshava with proper rules and regulations, but I cannot fast. So please instruct me, how can I obtain the result of Ekadasi without having to fast? On hearing these words of Bhimasena, Sri Vyasadeva said, O Bhima, if you want to go to the heavenly planets and avoid the hellish planets, then you must refrain from eating on both the Ekadasis of each month. Bhima said, O great sage, it is impossible for me to observe fasts on 24 Ekadasis every year, as instructed by the Lord. What to speak of fasting day and night? I cannot even tolerate my hunger for even a moment. The fire of hunger, known as brika, is always present within my stomach, and it is extinguished only by voracious eating. But with great endeavor I can fast only one day in a year. Therefore please instruct me about a vow that I can follow to attain auspiciousness in both this life and the next. Sri Vyasadeva said, O king, you have already heard from me about the Vedic religious principles and the duties of human beings. But in this age of Kali, not everyone is capable of following those rules and regulations. Therefore, I will tell you about a sublime method by which you can achieve great results. This method is the essence of all the Puranas. Anyone who observes the Ekadasis of the waning and waxing moon by fasting never goes to hell. Hearing Vyasadeva's words, that strongest warrior Bhimasena became frightened and shivered like a leaf on a banyan tree and said, O grandfather, what should I do? I am totally unable to fast twice a month throughout the year. Therefore, O my Lord, kindly instruct me about one vow that awards the most merit, and how by observing it I can achieve all benefits. Then Sri Vyasadeva replied, the Ekadasi which occurs during the waxing moon in the month of May and June, during the sun's presence in either Taurus or Gemini Rashi, is called Nirjala Ekadasi. One should observe total fast, even from drinking water, in this Ekadasi. On this day, one should perform Achman for purification by drinking that amount of water which a single mustard seed or a drop of gold can be immersed. One should place the said amount of water in his palm, held in such a way as to resemble a cow's ear. If one drinks more or less water than this, it will amount to drinking wine. One must not eat anything at all on this Ekadasi, otherwise his vow will be broken. One should not drink even water from the movement of the sunrise from the day of Ekadasi until the sunrise on the day of Dwadashi. In this way, if one strictly observes this Ekadasi without drinking water, then he can attain the results of observing all the Ekadasis of the year. In the early morning, on the day of Dwadashi, one should take bath and give gold and water in charity to the Brahmanas. Thereafter, the followers should gladly eat with the Brahmanas. O Bhimasena, now please hear about the piety one accumulates by observing this Ekadasi. By following this Ekadasi, one can achieve the results of following all the Ekadasis throughout the year. Once Lord Vishnu, who holds a conch, disc, club, and lotus flower in his hand, told me, if a person gives up all variety of religion and surrenders unto me, and follows this Nirjala Ekadasi, which is very dear to me, he is certainly relieved of all sinful reactions. One cannot attain the supreme destination by giving wealth and charity, or attain any benefit by following Sparta rules and regulations in Kali Yuga. In fact, the Vedic religious principles have become extinct in this age of Kali, which is polluted by various faults. O son of Vayu, what more can I tell you? Eating is actually prohibited on all the Ekadasis, and even drinking water is prohibited on Nirjala Ekadasi. By observing this Ekadasi, one achieves the piety of visiting all the holy places. At the time of death, such a person is not approached by the fierce-looking Yamadutas. Rather, he is approached by the divine-looking Vishnudutas to be transferred to the abode of Vishnu. If one gives water and cows in charity after observing this Ekadasi, then he is free from all sinful reactions. When the other Pandavas heard about the glories of this Ekadasi, they resolved to observe it. From that day onward, Bhimasena began observing this Nirjala Ekadasi, which became famous as Pandava Nirjala or Bhimasena Ekadasi. By following this Ekadasi, simple activities as huge as Sumeru or Mandra mountain are at once burnt to ashes. O king, Lord Krishna has declared that any pious activities such as taking bath in the holy places, giving charity, chanting Vedic mantras, and performing sacrifices that are carried out on this Nirjala Ekadasi day become inexhaustible. One who reads or hears the glories of this Ekadasi with devotion goes back to the abode of Vaikuntha. The result one attains by observing the vow of Amavasya conjoined with Pratipad and offering oblations to the forefathers during the solar eclipse is attained simply by hearing the glories of this Ekadasi. Jai Shri Panava Nirjala Ekadasi.
Jai.
Yes, Mom?
I have one amendment. It says that one who is physically unable to fast on Ekadasi may read the glories of each Ekadasi when it occurs and recite all the names of the Ekadasis. Thus, he will achieve the same goal as the person who observes the full Ekadasi vow.
Haribol. That's very merciful.
Yeah, I heard a class this morning in Bhaktivedanta Manor, and no, it was in the London temple. It's a devotee, I think his name is Talavana. He stays at Jagannath Puri, and I think he's the disciple of
Gaur Govinda Maharaj.
So he was saying that once there was the famous Gaudiya Math temple, Bhaktisiddhanta in Calcutta, something Bhag something, I don't remember the name of it.
Bhag Bazaar.
Bhag Bazaar, yeah. So Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada was noticing that all the disciples were in the temple and they were chanting, and he questioned one of the managers and said, well, it's the Ekadasi and they don't have because they're fasting, they don't have the strength to go out and do, I think, book distribution, I think was what he said. And so he said, Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada instructed them, go and prepare khichdi for all of them, and then they feed it to them, so they can go out and do the preaching work, because that is more important. So, from the spiritual matter. But then he was mentioning that there is dispensation for the young, for the old, and for the sick, not for breaking with grains, but fruit or water, things like that, And on this day, also I always found, this is a very interesting, on this day, when one of the biggest modern demons in the last few decades was to be executed the day before, or the day after, I forget. But it was an auspicious day in the Muslim tradition. So they hurried up his execution so that he'd be executed on this day, which is a day that if you apparently leave your body on this day, or maybe it was the one that's called Bhishma Ekadasi, and then he was liberated because he got executed on that Ekadasi, which gives you free. If you die on that Ekadasi, you automatically go back to Godhead.
Good for him.
His name was Saddam Hussein. I found that I really sometimes have trouble with that.
But he was taking the name of Allah as he was being led to the gallows. He was reciting the prayer, there is no God but God, that Muslim
really?
prayer. Yeah, he was taking the name of Allah.
And and the next day, in a few minutes, there was going to be a very auspicious day according to the Muslims. So they quickly did it on the Ekadasi day that gives them liberation.
Great. Okay.
Krishna's mercy is unlimited.
Grantharaj Bhagavatam ki jai,
Yeah.
Prabhupada ki jai, Ekadasi Mahaprabhu ki jai.
Yeah.